I just think it's disgusting. You would leave one wife's home.
We were not a perfect family, but we were a really good family.
What has happened is in the divorce, the ugly finger of blame has come out. You were never at my house. I'm sorry, I had 4 wives. I was at your house, though, because the other wife was complaining that I was at your house. I'm tired of being angry.
Everything about that scenario strikes me as a masterwork of dramatic irony. To be clear, Cody was completely indifferent to Mary's release. In fact, his worst emotional breakdown occurred when someone even hinted that he might have abandoned her. After all, Cody is incapable of doing anything bad. The icing on the cake was that he became extremely uncomfortable at the very notion of Christine being freed, since she had done nothing wrong, and it was obvious how dare she to formally break things off. Welcome back to the TLC Flicks. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. The tea spill by the daughter was a classic. It was just too much. Cody would be ecstatic to imagine Christine and Janelle getting into a car together and driving up to the AUV to get their releases out of spite. But her dad casually stated that if Christine or Janelle ever wanted an official release, he'd be more than happy to grant it. Like, buddy, they so don't care. Imagine the outburst I would have if I had to pay real money to watch that collapse on television. Can someone bring this up with Christine's PR team? I'm talking about having front row seats watching Cody's head blow up for sheer insolence. It feels like Mary's last great mic drop moment, but really, congrats to her for getting that release after all the craziness she's had to put up with. To Cody, it's the ultimate screw you. She's finally free after years of stealing it from him, and that's a really good move. And yes, believe her or not, I would also want to cut off the last thread if it were me. There would be a lot of interaction with co-parenting. Cody Brown from Sister Wives, isn't he? Saying Mary isn't loyal is quite the statement, given that she has been with him for years despite the fact that doing so is actually to her detriment. The man is changing history more quickly than anyone can keep up with. If you were a full-time employee looking for Cody's falsehoods, you would require overtime and hazard pay. Let's discuss that. They had adorable little nicknames for each other, lover no less, because they had never loved Mary nonsense. And all of a sudden, he begs us to accept that it was all a lie. It's the age-old narcissistic playbook. Assign blame, reconstruct the past, and make it all about the mistakes of others so that you are never forced to take responsibility for your own disaster. It's Cody's goal to hurt Mary as much as possible in order to look startled when she eventually loses it and remark, "Well, you left me, so it's your fault, not mine." It was convenient, and the scene of Robyn jumping in to steal Mary's ring was heartwarming. That really is Teddy at his best. Cody's delicate ego was completely destroyed when the catfish incident occurred, since he had once loved Mary too deeply. Now, in order to preserve his pride, he has to pretend that he has never given her any thought. The problem is that, to the rest of us, he doesn't appear to be a valiant martyr. He simply has a huge jerk's appearance. It's narcissism par excellence. Over time, he destroyed Mary and diminished her worth. Now he's reconstructing their whole relationship to suit his victim story. He's not fooling anyone. Anyone with the slightest bit of experience dealing with narcissists can read this guy through like a book. Christine's daughter Mickelty actually went there, admitting on national television to something most people find repulsive and acting like it's no big deal. Well, it was a lot to take in. She seems to be attempting to increase the shock value to unprecedented levels. In defense of Christine, all mammals engage in it. Come on, it doesn't exactly get better when you use animal behavior as an excuse. Simply because animals act in certain ways to survive, that doesn't mean we ought to start copying them. Yes, mammals lick their own wounds clean, but that doesn't mean humans should follow suit. Correct? The overall health benefits justification also seems implausible. Let's not behave as though this is a wholly archaic right. Folks, it's simply strange. It also kind of fits the brand for Mickelty. She has always been the center of attention, so perhaps that's how she makes sure she sticks out in a family that size. But really, there's a point where this crosses over into plain unpleasant area, and then there's shock value. Eating your own placenta is one thing, but it goes to a whole other level of disgusting when you compare it to eating something like leftover skin from surgery or a mole you had removed. There are some things that are best kept off the radio. What a sorrow it is that poor Robyn does not get to enjoy her wonderful Christmas in the plural. However, I agree with you. If she truly yearns for a plural lifestyle, let Cody go find a few other wives. Why end the story at 2? However, to ensure it feels pleasant and genuine, let's really kick it up to 3. To properly make the point, let's make sure they're all 7 years younger than her, exactly like Christine was. Go big or go home. Isn't that the motto if you want the whole numerous wife experience? You're entirely correct too. Just as your friend mentioned, women marry death row serial killers. There's always someone out there prepared to wed anyone, recruiting a few others to participate in Cody's mayhem. It wouldn't be too difficult to fill the casting call, I'm sure. After all, every pot has a lid, even if Cody is the pot in question. Robyn expressed concern when Cody offered to host the entire family for Christmas. Makes sense, Robyn. You can't say you're missing the large family get-togethers, but then decline an invitation when one is extended to you. That right there is a contradiction of the highest order. To be honest, it seems like Robyn needs to realize that her idealized conception of the holidays is not the center of the world. Individuals have other obligations, such as making their own laws and traditions. And who says there can only be one Christmas day? Christmas is a 12-day holiday, as you mentioned, so there's plenty of time to spread cheer. Perhaps Robyn should take a cue from you and learn to relax a bit. The holidays should be about happiness, not pressuring others to conform to a certain stereotype. Furthermore, Robyn Brown, a star of Sister Wives, has no family for Christmas. Her siblings are where? Cousins, aunts, uncles? And her mother, what about her? The fact that nobody wants to be near her is perplexing. It speaks volumes that Cody's siblings also don't want anything to do with her. To be honest, I wish she would just quit complaining and get an artist to draw the ideal family scene she always talks about. Is she blind to the fact that a great many people would be overjoyed to spend the holidays with their husband and kids together under one roof? She obviously doesn't understand what true family entails. The worst part is that she claims that while Cody's children are growing up without a father, her hopes of starting a family are dashed. Of course, we should all feel bad for Robyn. She conveniently forgets that it was she who said it wouldn't be safe for everyone to congregate at Mary's or Garrison's, which is hilarious. What's so unsettling is that I believe Robyn is actually devastated by everyone's departure. She thought the original 3 would always be financially dependent on Cody, even though she really wanted to be the favorite wife. You can see how unbalanced their finances are, much like a lot of women in their neighborhood. She imagined herself as the youngest child's stay-at-home mother, with the other women doing all the heavy lifting. Her strategy seems to be to finally take a nice little nest egg from the show and retire on the porch. All of that was for Cody and her. She is now angry that her children are not allowed to unwrap their gifts alongside the other children. She can tell how much Cody prefers her above the others because he exclusively gives her kisses, puts her on his lap, and talks to her about their shared past. The other women are made to pretend she's the matriarch and savior of the family while they sit there in anguish. I don't think she will ever feel that way about another Christmas. In addition, there are a lot of questions about the financial standing of the other spouses, Cody, Robyn, and the star of Sister Spouses. It certainly appears as though Cody and Robyn were using family funds to support their opulent way of life. Robyn's business never seemed to generate much revenue, and Cody's endeavors, such as the gun business, probably don't make up for everything. The high-end lifestyle, the mortgage on their enormous home, feeding the entire family, private school trips, and so on. It makes sense why Cody is having a tantrum. It's difficult to ignore the link between Cody's breakdowns and the probable financial hardship he's under, especially now that he doesn't have the other wife's financial assistance. It seems to be a combination of his hurt pride over being discarded and his anxiety over losing access to Janelle and Christine's money. Money played a significant role in Janelle's decision to leave, as she has publicly said, and her children have good right to be angry with Cody. It makes perfect sense that the financial abuse angle hasn't been explored in further detail. Perhaps this is due to the fact that financial abuse is less well known than emotional drama, which always takes center stage. However, Christine's request for child support is a positive start. While it was evident that Kody had checked out, it's difficult to ignore the suspicion that Mary's income was the real reason Robyn didn't want her to leave. She's obviously done with the nonsense and ready to protect herself and her kids financially, and that could set a precedent for the other wives. For a considerable amount of time, Mary's enterprises presumably supported their way of life. Nevertheless, eventually, that safety net began to fade. Forensic accounting, as you indicated, was the best course of action available to the original wives. Therefore, Robyn and Kody were in a panic. They would have the clarity they deserve if they could sort through the complex financial labyrinth and determine who was really responsible for what. The fact that Janelle was confined to a trailer and had to give up her savings to Kody and Robyn in order for them to live in their opulent home. It's understandable that people are conjecturing that the McMansion is being sold because someone acted as a lawyer. This statement sums up how unjust everything is. It sounds like Kody and Robyn may now be experiencing financial reality, and it is incredibly painful to watch the breakdown of Kody's connections with his children as an 18-year-old. Love and connection were once radiated by the Brown family, which is why watching the current fallout is so heartbreaking. It wouldn't have hurt as deeply if that devotion had never existed or had faded long ago, but realizing how much love they had shared makes Kody's total emotional detachment from his kids all the more agonizing. That picture of Gabe will always stick in your memory. All the information you require regarding the harm Kody has caused is revealed by the obvious pain in his eyes. And Gabe sobbing over his dad's lack of concern. It's terrible. A father has lost all empathy if he can inflict such feelings on his own child and not even bat an eyelid. It's not only sorrowful, it's risky. As you said, how can you justify abusing your children in that way and carry on as if everything is fine? That voice cracked when Garrison said, "These aren't merely flimsy teenage digressions. These are the cries of kids who have experienced severe emotional abandonment from a father." Your diagnosis of narcissism was spot on. Given that they are easier to manage, Kody obviously prefers his younger children. They grant him the admiration he so desperately wants without confronting him. That is, until his children grow up and begin to develop their own personalities and opinions, especially if they diverge from his. He makes his check. You're right. He did it to Gabe and Garrison. Kody probably would have dropped Robyn's elder children just as quickly if they ever got out of line. They are trained to worship him now, but he will turn on them too if that ever changes. There is obvious bias. Kody's favorites in the good old days were Maddie, the endearing daughter, and Janelle's kids, her powerful sons. The reason Saul and Ari are the center of attention these days isn't that Kody has grown more fond of his younger children. Rather, it's just that since they are Robyn's, the other children, especially those from his previous marriages, seem to be on his radar less and less. Unless they are submitting to his will, it's as though he has completely checked out of being their father. TLC must change course. Give us a spin-off featuring Christine and Janelle's older children, those who have overcome Kody's poison and are building their own lives. It would be energizing to witness the family members who are recovering and going on without him. Regarding Kody, it's time to permanently remove that Raymond noodle do from our screens. He is not worthy of a platform. The main emphasis ought to be not the harm he keeps causing, not the people he left behind. Furthermore, I believe it's safe to assume that Sister Wives star Kody Brown is done having babies. Given that Robyn is 47, it seems unlikely that she would want to pursue parenthood again, and the notion of Kody taking in a new, younger wife in order to continue having children seems absurd. It sounds like a firm no. I find it hard to believe that Robyn would be receptive to a new partner because she seems so protective of her status as the previous wife. Besides, Kody's life is already crazy enough without taking on additional spouses or children. It's crazy that people are even questioning whether he's finished. Kody doesn't even appear to care about the kids he already has. Particularly with his elder children, he is hardly present. As you mentioned, He loves children while they are young and impressionable, when he can exert control over them and enjoy their unwavering devotion. But as soon as they become adults and begin to form their own opinions, especially when they question his authority, he simply looks at his relationship with his adult children, which demonstrates just how difficult it is for him to relinquish control over them. In all honesty, it appears that Cody is considerably more concerned with keeping control and authority over his small bubble with Robyn than he is with growing his family. But there's something really uncomfortable about the way that show portrayed the adoption procedure as a whole. I understand why this feels so upsetting because I am an adoptee. Cody and Robyn never acknowledged the trauma involved, acting as though this was the best course of action. You can sense the awkward strain on the children in particular to appear grateful on television and behave appropriately. It's a storyline that appears in adoption tales much too frequently, and it makes you shudder. Adoptees are expected by society to view their adoption as a blessing rather than as something that carries a heavy emotional burden. The fact that their father is formally giving them up must be devastating for Robyn's kids. It's not just paperwork. They had to deal with an emotional breakup in real time, on camera, and Dayton had to sign those documents while it was being taped. That was undoubtedly a coercive and emotionally heated environment. When their parents and the cameras are watching them, are they really able to make an informed decision? It seems manipulative, as if they didn't really have a say. Though they are legally permitted to maintain contact with their biological father, you can only imagine the sort of remorse and shame these children may experience if they ever attempted to get back in touch. It seems like if they did, there would be unstated repercussions. Although it's mild, emotional strain of such kind is real and dangerous. The fact that Cody and Robyn thought this was the finest day ever really gets to me. For the children, however, it's a day of loss. Adopting a child is one thing when that child has no other parents. But it wasn't the case here. Their father was present. This was no case of abandonment. To put them in a story where they have to reject their real father in order to stroke Cody's ego is cruel. It is extremely rude and, at best, tone deaf that they present it as a celebration. Worst of all, it illustrates how adoption isn't a universally applicable answer. It's frequently said to be. It's crucial to understand that adoption, especially in cases where it's carried out with the best of intentions, frequently has a profound emotional impact on the children involved. It's time to stop acting like everything is sunshine and rainbows and to have frank discussions about the trauma and loss that accompany it. Those children were too young to be displayed like this at such a delicate, sensitive time. Furthermore, don't Evelyn's responses reveal a lot about her relationships with Cody and Robyn? The fact that she began by resting on Yusup's lap before switching to Mycelti's arms instead of Cody's indicates where her true comfort resides. It's obvious that she spent a lot more time with Robyn. Given that Cody is essentially a stranger attempting to play the grandfather role, it is painfully obvious that Robyn is making an effort to develop a relationship with her. In addition, given that she indicated that Cody has only been around for a few days, it appears that these brief encounters are sufficient for Evelyn to identify her as a familiar figure. Being there, as a toddler's mother, you completely understand, unlike Cody, who feels more like an outsider in her life. There are times when children just want to be with the women in their lives. It's only natural for them to look for security and comfort. Who hasn't experienced those moments when the younger ones shy away from guys and cling to you or other women? It's typical behavior, particularly for that age group. That being said, Cody's absence from work is evident, even if one does not scrutinize each and every frame of the film. As a parent or a grandfather, the show makes it obvious that he isn't truly there in their life. Witnessing those exchanges just serves to highlight this point. Though Cody may believe he can step in and take the role, Evelyn's responses show that he's simply not a part of their everyday lives. Additionally, Sister Wives star Kody Brown's remarks over continuing to be married to Mary despite the potential harm she could have caused him, it really got on my nerves. What in the world did he think she was going to do, really? In a tense divorce discussion, call in her brother for support and seize half the Christmas village. But then it occurred to me that what Mary could have done to really scare Cody would have been to file for divorce, which would have posed a significant risk to him and given her a right to an equitable division of their joint property. And the court might have ordered Cody to auction off some of his belongings if he was unable to pay for it. Furthermore, he would be facing considerably greater financial hardship if Mary had made contributions to any of his ventures or had performed unpaid work for him. Thus, it is clearly evident that Cody's true concern was the divorce itself, and let's not undervalue Robyn's astute handling of the entire affair. By effectively keeping Mary out of the picture, she assisted him in avoiding the financial consequences of a divorce. The adoption plan was a brilliant move. She changed all the power dynamics by making sure Cody didn't have to be married for the adoption to take place. In addition to positioning herself as Cody's superior wife, Robyn set up a situation in which she now has a lot of influence over him. Since Cody is the legal father of 3 minor children, and they have partnerships in several businesses, let's face it, if Cody and Robyn broke up, Robyn would be in a much better situation than Mary ever could have been. So much credit to Robyn for her brilliant card play. She has demonstrated that she is capable of navigating this intricate network. The stakes are considerably higher for Cody now than he understands, even though he may not be aware of it. If you are looking for more Sister Wives gossip, come back to TLC Flicks for all your updates. Bye, guys.